Hey everyone, Eduardo here from VSharp. Today I wanted to come at you with my weekly video and I wanted to devote it to mindset, the third part of which I wanted to spend talking about the stories that we tell ourselves. And I'll do that, but I'll do that next week. I actually ran into this very interesting experiment and it's called the IKEA Effect, when labor leads to love. In essence, what they were trying to do was measure the determinant factors of job satisfaction, engagement, and meaning attached to work. So they ran a number of experiments. The first experiment was done with Legos, little robot figures. And once completed, they had to turn it into the experimenter. The experimenter reacted based on which group the participant belonged to. There were two groups. One was called meaningful, the other one was called Sisyphic, which comes from Sisyphus, eternally condemned to push a boulder up a hill, and as he was nearing the cusp of the hill, the boulder would slide back down and he would have to go back and push it up the hill again, only to have it roll down eternally. The meaningful group, when they handed in their work, the experimenter looked at it and said, oh, okay, put it aside. For the Sisyphic group, as soon as they handed in their product, the experimenter didn't really even look at it, they just pulled it apart, they just broke it apart and asked them to go and build another one. And when they brought it back, same treatment. And they were measuring the number of construction cycles that they would go through. So the meaningful group went through this 11 times, while the Sisyphic group only did 7 times. So that's like 60% more for the group whose work was acknowledged, and not even praised, right? Just acknowledged. So takeaway number 1. Let's go to experiment number 2. Participants were given a paper with random letters on it. They were asked to identify adjacent pairs of letters. And for each pair, they would get a certain amount of money. I think it started at 30 cents for the first pair, then a little less for the second pair, a little less for the third, and so on. Again, they were split into groups. So one was nod, the other one was ignore, and the third group was destroy. As the names describe, for nod, the experimenter would receive the paper, not even really look at it, just nod, put it aside. For ignore, the experimenter did precisely that, just grab the paper, put it on a tray. For destroy, you guessed it. They received the paper, they just shred it apart. They didn't even look at it, they just looked at the participant. I bet you would not be surprised by the results here. Those who got the nod went from the starting price of 30 cents for the paper down to 15 cents. For ignore, they went from 30 cents that they started with to 23 cents. So not quite as good as nod. And then for destroy, what do you think happened? Of course, destroy only lasted to 26 cents, down from 30. So destroyed, they gave up pretty quickly when the price got down to 26 cents. Ignore got down to 23 cents. And nod, which is to say acknowledge, went all the way down to 15 cents. Same takeaway. You give meaning and recognition, and people are going to go a lot farther than if you don't do that. In experiment 3, participants were split into 3 categories. One was builders with instructions, builders without instructions, and observers. Participants were asked to rank their product, same as the observers, and then they compared the relative ratings that each of these 2 groups would give them. So the builders with instructions rated 63% higher on their liking from 0 to 7, 7 being I really love it. They ranked 63% higher than the non-builders. And when the same measurement was taken for those who had no instructions, the rating was even higher. I don't remember what the rating was, but it was significantly higher than the rating that the builders with instructions had given it. And again, it means that because it was very hard, they valued the output a lot more than if it had been given to them assembled. The observers were, as you would expect, the lower raters of all, right? So their liking, ranking, 7, I love it, 0, I hate it, they came in significantly below the other 2 groups. Experiment 4, origami. Origami are these paper figures created, right? You take a piece of paper and you fold it into a crane or a frog or a little horse or a flower, you name it. And participants were asked to build origamis. They gave them pieces of paper, they gave them instructions, and then when they brought their product back, the experimenter said, okay, this is mine, but I'm gonna let you buy it. How much would you offer for it? Once the participant named a figure, then he or she was given another piece of paper, and the same thing happened all over. They also had observers, and the observers were asked to just name a price for finished origami pieces. And so this kept going. Then they gave the builders the paper, but no instructions. Then they were asked to price the product. And again, they compared it versus the external observers who had done nothing. And super interesting, the builders priced their product 5 times higher than the observers. So the same conclusion, right? If there's effort involved, if there's some meaning in there, if there's some identity poured into the product, people are likely to attach a lot more value than if it's just given to them or than if it's just something easy. So there's something to be said about challenging people, challenging our teams to do things that are hard, because at the end of that, their satisfaction is going to be a lot higher than if it had been less difficult to do it. And this is more of an anecdote. In the 40s, food companies launched pre-mixed cakes. They were just in a box, powder. They poured it into a bowl along with some water, mixed, put it into a mold, and then into the oven. Done, you got a cake. The cake didn't really move off the shelf. Nobody was buying it. They were really surprised as to why people are not buying this product. It's a great product, good quality, good flavors. The tests that they had done, blind tests for flavor, were very favorable. And still, they just didn't know why this couldn't sell. They found that the reason was that people were not enjoying the cake because it was not their own. It was somebody else's cake. They just grabbed powder, put water, mixed, put it into the oven. And what was supposed to be the advantage of the product, how practical it was actually its undoing, because people did not feel any ownership. So what did they do? They took off milk and eggs from the mix. Consumers had to pour the flour and the rest of the mixture into the bowl, go and get the eggs from the fridge, break them, mix them in, go and get the milk from the fridge, pour it in, measure it, weigh the whole thing, put it into mix, whatever else was required, put it into the oven, and now it came the same product, but it was their cake. And the sales went through the roof. So again, the same result. There's more work involved. There's probably going to be more appreciation. So there's 3 takeaways. The first takeaway is there's a lot more meaning attached to things that are harder. If you give people in your teams things that are either easy to do or just easy work, then there's going to be a lot less purpose perceived. There's going to be a lot less engagement. There's going to be a lot less motivation. Don't just give people things to do to keep them busy. People are just going to feel used and entirely without purpose. Therefore, less motivated, less engaged. Motivation is really not just the pay. It's the pay plus the identity, plus the creation, plus the effort, the recognition, plus. It's about, do I attach value to what you did? Do you feel like you own it? Are you proud of what you did? Those are the things that really determine the ownership, the pride, and the sense of satisfaction that our teams are going to get from their work. I will leave the article in the description below. And again, please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. This really helps the channel. I will see you here for the next one. And remember, be better, be smart, be sharp.